Hello and welcome back to another Syracuse University esports broadcast. We're coming back at you, week number 2 of the Power Esports Conference. We got Rocket League tonight, as usual, on your Monday nights. I'm Ryan Blankenhorn, and joining me on the desk tonight is another Ginger, nonetheless, Braden. Braden, how are you feeling tonight, my friend?
I'm excited. That was a fired-up intro. I was talking about it last week doing the Overwatch broadcast, how you talking to your team pumped me up going into the cast. Different game, same energy right here. I can't wait to get things started.
Same energy indeed, right? Week number 2 for the Power Esports Conference here in, the Ohio State. Right, the Ohio State and Syracuse University. That's what we got all week. But before we get a little bit into this week's matchups, right, just take a look at some of these records here. We only have 2 undefeated teams as of now. It's Michigan State and USC. Now, one thing to note here is with Michigan State, right, it's 3-0. You may be thinking, why does this even out to 4 games, though?
I don't
know. Right?
Like,
there are 3 games here. Well, that's because a couple of our rosters don't have an Overwatch team, or we're rescheduling issues or such like that. So that is why Michigan State, for instance, is 3-0, and also why USC, they ended up playing Nebraska. They do not have an Overwatch team as well. So that's why you're seeing some of these scores look a little off. But in some of these other rosters, right, Oklahoma and Kansas, 2-2, nice and even. Syracuse and Boise State, if you tuned in last week, you saw some of those games. Had a rough start to start off the week, but at the end of the week, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate taking that win against Boise State. A very, very nice match, a game 3 at that, but in the end, they took that one off. And today, the rest of this week, Braden, we got the Ohio State.
Exactly. Last week, some of these matches were a little bit lopsided in terms of overall record, as you just saw, but even the individual map counts. And again, first week jitters for some of these new players, especially on the Syracuse side, could play a factor. Now week 2, you have some VOD to look back on. You have some more reps under your belt. How is Rocket League going to open up the week for Syracuse?
Exactly, right? And that's one thing to think about, right? First week jitters sort of deal. A lot of these teams fell victim to that, right? Including the Ohio State. Last week, they went 0-3 against Michigan State University. Syracuse, same deal for Boise, right? 0-3. So both these rosters coming off a 0-3 loss going into this week. So obviously, there's a lot to question, right? Which of these teams is going to come out on top tonight? Are we going to see a very competitive series? Is one of them going to sort of go on top of the other? There's a lot of questions going in, and that's sort of the biggess thing we see going through this Power Esports Conference before some of these teams start to seed themselves out.
Yeah, something's got to give. Both of these Rocket League teams winless on the season. Now, again, it is only 1 week, but something's got to give. Something's going to change tonight. We're excited to see it happen tonight and all week in what I'm calling the Battle of Kyle McCord.
All right. All right, okay. We're bringing football into this now, I see. All right. We're playing soccer, Braden. It's cardball.
It's football.
It's cardball.
Oh, cardball.
Cardball.
All right.
Football and cardball don't max. Mix, max.
It's like hockey, but soccer with cars is how I explain it to my parents.
Yeah.
Rocket League, hockey, no out of bounds. Soccer with cars.
Well, you can't go out of bounds on Rocket League, Braden.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
It's a nice glass.
Yeah.
Anyways, now that we've had that little inside thought there, as a whole, right, some of the things we saw last week from Syracuse to keep in mind out for this week is we saw them, they were sort of struggling to really work as that team, right? We saw a lot of individual hero plays come in and some great shots coming out from players like Lindell and Gababy, but they weren't really focusing on those passing games, right? And that's where Boise State had a lot of advantage over them. Another thing, right? They were working on that aggression, but then it was a matter of some of these demos on their rotates, right? That was one thing that was really punishing them on some of their rotates, and Boise was able to get a lot of value. I'm curious to see today, you and I were talking a little bit before the broadcast, demos, right? Very, very big deal if Syracuse is going to play that today.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to follow this Syracuse Rocket League team a lot last year especially, and getting really close to those guys, traveling to some lands with them. They were a very physical team. Yep. Last year's Syracuse Rocket League team was all about demos to get those boosts, which is obviously very important, but they were going to demo all day, all the time, especially Gavilon, who we hope is watching today, great alumni. But really, Gababy has taken over this team and is much more agile, aerial with the team. And the team's kind of followed that. So maybe a new look for Syracuse in their play style. But again, it comes down to Rocket League and who's going to execute better. Physicality does play a factor.
Yeah, absolutely right. Physicality plays a very large factor in a lot of these matches, as well as just that synergy, right?
Yep.
Going through the game, getting used to playing with each other. It's been about 3-4 weeks now that these teams have been together. And so now we go into this week, right? You've had some time to work. You've had some time to sort of flesh out some of those kinks you may have had. Now you can go into these matches and really, really hunker down on some of those things you've been working on in scrims and in practices. And, we discussed it a lot last week. I'm just going to continue the theme here this week, right? A big deal with coaches, right? I believe Gavilan, if I'm correct, may actually be coaching the roster now.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure I'm right.
That wouldn't shock me.
I could be wrong. I don't quite have it in my notes here, but it's okay. We always have notes that sometimes don't finish.
Well, one thing, especially you as a coach and me as a captain of other varsity teams here, I think week 2 is extremely influential, especially as we continue throughout the week, because you have all that free VOD. With us casting this, of course, we're putting on a show and things like that. When you get into the game, you're able to see what these players and potentially your future opponents are doing, and that is crucial for, like you said, coaches and captains alike.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one thing that I did right after the Overwatch match last week is, I went to bed. I was tired, actually. But
night,
the day after, I went back and I watched that cast. By the way, very good job. But I went back, I watched that cast, and I was sort of seeing what y'all were saying. Because, one set of eyes, I can see one thing. But even from our standpoint, right, we see it the whole way through. We're always looking at both teams, right, that all-spec bird's-eye view type of deal. And you say things, you realize things that maybe a coach just sort of misses by accident, right? And captains as well, right? So coming back and seeing these VODs, whether, your Boise State from last week, Syracuse for this week, these are very, very crucial for that coaching and for that improvement as a team.
Yeah. 100%, especially with the youth on this team and talking to the team a little bit earlier. Obviously, Gababy with lots of competitive experience. I got to be a part of that group that got to recruit him here. Him and I are very, very close. Love that kid to death. But the other guys, first time competing in Rocket League in general, not only just for Syracuse, but overall. So obviously, like we mentioned, those first week jitters. But again, learning and going back to the VOD for probably the first time in their gaming life, going back and looking at footage with a constructive eye can make or can break what happens today.
Absolutely, yeah. And, one thing I also wanted to bring up is the Ohio State, right? The Ohio State. They have a big roster, right? And with that comes a lot of flexibility. They've been around a little bit longer than the Syracuse varsity team has, right? So there's a lot that you can always think about as a whole. But we'll, of course, talk a little bit more about that Ohio State roster. It looks like we might have a couple tech issues, so we're going to be right back. Don't go anywhere. We promise the games are going to be right back when we return. Hey folks, welcome back. So a slight change of plans. Unfortunately, due to some scheduling conflicts, the game won't be able to be streamed live on this channel tonight. The game still may happen, so be sure you make sure you stay up to date with the score lines on Qs_esports. It's gonna be on Twitter and Instagram. So just to be aware of what that score line is going to look like. Be on the lookout as well. Overwatch plays the Ohio State tonight as well, so be on the lookout for that scoreline, but unfortunately, broadcast will not be able to live stream those matches tonight.
I'm disappointed. I was looking forward to working with another Ginger, but we'll be back rest of the week with more fantastic PEC action against the Ohio State.
Yes, Braden and I will be back on the desk sometime, so don't worry, we will be back. But at the end of the day, there definitely will be a stream back up Wednesday, so be sure you tune in then. But until next time, wherever you may be, morning, evening, afternoon, have a good one, folks.